Rob Burrows is here at Milan International Film Festival, and the great news is that he's actually here to represent two films, Flowerman and Temporal. Thank you very much, and congratulations.
Thanks, Steve.
Now, I know we've spoken about Flowerman before, obviously, when you had that film come to. I'm slightly more interested in Temporal for this interview, because I know it's a later entry. I'm sure you won't mind me saying, I mean, with Flowerman, I found it quite dark and quite intense.
Yeah.
Which I guess was the idea behind it. It's sort of no holds barred thriller. What was the plan when you were sort of envisaged Temporal in regards to how you wanted that to be different to your previous film?
I wanted all the films done to be different, and Temporal was something about someone's psychology. It's, the notion came from being stuck in time. It's a lot to do with time, so that's why the title is Temporal. But it really depicts this character who suffers loss. Like, I think that's a hook that a lot of people identify with.
Yeah.
He loses his partner, his soulmate, quite early on. It becomes apparent during the film that he's also lost his parents, and so it has echoes of loss in earlier parts of his life during his childhood. And this precipitates a sort of crisis where he starts not being sure whether he's being guided or whether he's having fantasies, like a delusional trip. So he works his way through this. I won't give too much away, but it's a sort of story where part of the reason of doing it the way it was done was to make it unclear what was happening until the end of the film.
Right.
We didn't want to give away the storyline, and that was actually the hook in the film. So it presents some intrigue and some questions during the first parts of the film, which you have to actually watch the whole film to get the answer to. And it does conclude. So it does explain things.
What interests me in particular about you and this film, and the same with Flowerman, is the people that see this podcast may not know your background, which is in mental health, I believe, isn't it? So I'm guessing that what you've done is taken out all that experience, and of course you can feed that into your stories. I mean, I may be wrong, but you know what I'm trying to say really badly is your professional expertise feeds into the.
What I think I developed some sort of empathy for what people go through. I've seen quite a few cases where there's been sort of crises occurring in people's lives.
Yeah.
And what I wanted to do was to communicate that type of concept, that type of thing, because it's something that not a lot of people have insight into until it happens to them. So they have some personal thing happen, perhaps. But in watching films which have that in them, I think there's a way of trying to communicate what is an inner world to. Like in Flowerman, it was the crisis precipitated by the abduction and the manipulation that occurred, and what Amy, who was playing Sarah, the character, went through. And I think she depicted that really well. But also, it's the healing that comes after that and how that was restored. And that was influenced by The Lovely Bones. I really love that film.
Yes,
and that actually led me to write it.
And what about where did Temporal start from? I mean, you've done Flower. Is this already in gestation, or is this brand new?
Well, there was a guy in Flowerman who had a small role, but he got in touch with us. That was Theodore de Venice, and he's a writer, and he's very keen on doing filmmaking. And so he asked me if I'd direct Temporal, which he'd written. And so we went over the script together. And one thing about the story was that it was modified as we went, so it was a dynamic script. In fact, the whole thing sort of changed around, which is normal, but perhaps a bit more so in Temporal than it has been in other films. It's normal because often there's logistical reasons to do it anyway. But also there's artistic reasons, and the artistic reasons were the reason why Temporal was modified and changed and developed as it went.
So there was a script, or was
it yes,
to begin with, but did you literally completely rewrite it?
It was rewritten significantly during the course of the film, and the thing was to try and balance this thing. It was a risk-taking. I knew that was the case, because if you make a film that's hard to understand, people can switch off.
Yeah.
On the other hand, if you give too much story away and dumb it down, that can result in people switching off as well, because they don't find it stimulating enough.
No.
So we had to find the right degree of intrigue and the right sort of hook in terms of presenting questions during the film. And it can feel slightly disjointed, but that's actually designed to be that way, because it needs to go through this.
Oh, it's deliberate, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's deliberate.
And the mysteries that occur are because that's what that character is going through. And when people go through a crisis, often things aren't clear and they don't know what's going on particularly well. And they have intrusive things that happen. And that sort of hook in the film, if you like, also fits the character's experience. So it was appropriate to that film to use that. As in Flowerman, perhaps the hook was that it already said what the story was at the beginning. That she was selling her story to the audience, and it was like from an existential point of view. So you didn't know whether she was in this world or the next.
Yeah.
But it's a bit similar in Temporal, in that where someone is and where their reality isn't too clear. It could be believable. It could be a psychotic thing. So really, it's left to the viewer to determine some of that. But as the film goes to conclusion, it does conclude the film and conclude the story.
And this, I don't want to call it a genre because that's not how I feel about it. But the style of these stories that you're writing and developing, because of your background, seems to be quite clear because you've got experience and it's fantastic. But is that something you're going to pursue? Are you looking at, I don't know, a comedy or
with Temporal, I influenced it, but Theodore Devanus wrote it. But the film we're working on now is with a new writer. That's Matt Taylor, who's producing it as well. And it's a combination of experiences, in fact, that we have both had, but it tells his story.
Yeah.
Because we got together, we actually met in my son's school. He's a role there. And he's a very skillful guy, and he's got a lot of life experience there. But he suffered a loss, and we talked about that. And so he shared his experiences with me. And what I thought was that was the foundation for a story, for a film, for a script. And he wrote it because it was appropriate for him to write it since it was mainly his experience. But we had shared experiences that we discussed, and so we devised that story together. So it is based on reality, it's based on true story concepts, so it's also got like a fictional sort of storyline to it accompanying that, so it works as a film story and as a screenplay.
Right.
But we're doing that at the moment. Rachel Teat stars in that, so we're very pleased to have her along. So, and also Barbara French is our casting agent, and she's really excellent. So and Glenn Maltman is our school writer. So we've got a really good team there, along with Matt, and a new actress too, Zoe Allen, who's also one of the leads, and Jay Mullen, who's working in a lead role as well. So I'm hoping that's going to be another film that's successful.
What's the plan for shooting on that?
Well, at the moment we've started. We're in production now. We hope to complete by April, so we can actually release to festival around April time or into the summer. But it's progressing well at the moment, and I'm hopeful that'll be another step up, because what we want to do also is to get films to a larger audience each time.
Yes.
So I think we're sort of achieving that, but I'd like to see that really take off a bit, because it's really rewarding for people to know that the work they've committed so much effort to gets an audience. I think it's the biggest thing for them.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I that and the distribution, of course, which I know all the filmmakers.
Yeah,
it's the big thing for them.
It's a big shared thing too.
Yeah.
Television doesn't actually convey what independent film does at all. The stations just don't show it because they're sort of in competition with each other to show a certain type of material. And it's a great shame, because when you come to a festival like this, the quality of work is outstanding. There's really good stuff shown. You only see it at festivals.
Why isn't? Yeah, absolutely.
It's really crazy. It should be made easily available to mass audience.
Yeah.
And with a number of digital channels available on TV, then that ought to happen. But TV is losing out because the internet is going to knock them hard if they don't get on top of that.
Yeah, I'm sort of going off piece there. You think someone would come up with a fairly simple idea, which would be, let's buy a space on a digital channel on a free or whatever, and just screen independent films.
Yeah.
You think there'd be,
or even combine it within a station's coverage of what they do show. So there's a mix, but they do make an effort to do that and don't just want to show what's been a theatrical success and repeat it. Because they tend to actually show repeats because they know people will watch them because they've liked them before. But there's so much that they're missing that way too. And those films are great and there's an audience for them. But that audience could also appreciate a lot of live experience that I've seen at different festivals I've been to.
Yeah.
And it's an opener actually as to what isn't made available. And a lot of festivals I know only came into existence because of that.
Yes.
Because the system doesn't allow it. And there's always been a sort of glass ceiling or containment thing, which I don't know if it's a classist thing or it's just a historical thing, particularly in Britain, where certain filmmakers can't get their material out, can't get seen, and it's the same for actors.
Absolutely, yeah. No, there's no doubt about it.
Yeah, we've transcended that really because we've got American distributors.
And you're doing an Amazon.
We go on Amazon Prime in the USA. That's our main audience. And we get a lot of views there. Unfortunately, it doesn't happen everywhere. We are available in the UK and in other countries. In fact, our films go out to 200 countries approximately. But despite that, because the promotion is in America and through Amazon Prime, that's the main place for it. And Go and other sort of networks like that they're based online on Rockcube. We've got a lot of outlets there through our distributor there. But Britain's losing out. And the Amazon Prime in Britain is different to the one in America, and that too is a shame because there's far more material in America that's available there. I'm hoping these things will evolve. I think they are. Things are changing all the time, particularly since the digital revolution started. But I think TV needs to do a catch-up job, and they could then stop just replicating content on each station. There's about 1,000 channels or something. There's not much to choose between them.
I mean, this is the reason I've got Sky, because it all seems the same to me, the same old dredge. I don't mean dredge, but it's hard to differentiate. And and if I want something to be different and exciting and new, and I don't really find that. And anyway, there's lots of reasons, but I'm just not a fan of Sky. But the content needs to be changed, it needs to be overhauled, and I now know. I mean, I know this about you. I've just having seen a lot of these films at all the festivals, and you do wonder how these films aren't being seen by a wider audience.
Yeah. Well, the annoying thing too is a lot of public money goes into funding filmmaking, but it just isn't channeled right, in my view. It doesn't get to the people who are actually producing the stuff. It tends to be wasted, and it tends to be a classist system. For instance, of one of the big organisations in London, who I won't name who they are, but they actually list directors. They list our films on their database, but won't list me as a director because I don't tick their boxes. And that is a classist system, and it is affecting a lot of people who make films. And the trouble is, there's a great deal of talent in the UK. There's a great deal of potential for doing stuff like we see here.
Yes.
But unless that's nurtured, that doesn't develop. And funding by government goes to studios, that sort of thing. They go to the big guys, and they seem to have forgotten that the migration of talent to those big studios starts at independent film level.
Yeah.
But that is something they've missed out on a lot. That we don't get any help from the system. We've never had any independent funding, any funding come to help us. We're self-funding, and the only funding we now get is what we make from films being viewed. So it's quite low level because unfortunately online films don't generate income very much.
No, and in fact I was reading a report about this, I think it was only yesterday, and the amount of money they generate on these viewing sites, I was quite surprised. It's quite minuscule.
It's tiny. You're lucky if it pays your accountancy expenses for a business.
That's
and covers the insurance for shooting. And those are legal requirements. So, it's very basic. The rest is from people committing their own effort to it and their time, and money, and that sort of thing. We're hoping to do better on funding, but everyone hopes that. It's always the constraint you have in filmmaking is the funding and it's the time.
Yeah.
Those two things are essential. But there is never enough of either. Now, I know this is a theme that goes through all the way up to multi-million-dollar productions. They have the same feeling. So I don't feel too sort of ostracised by having that awareness because it's
the two things that always come up.
Yeah.
I wish I had another day or a week, and I wish I'd have more money.
Yeah.
So absolutely.
Because when shooting, you always feel you're doing this really fast. What's being missed? And it is fast. It's incredibly fast shooting. I write it in my head. I know what I want to do, but I know it when I'm doing it.
Are you perpetually changing things on the fly? I suppose you must be.
I do it on the run. Yeah, I do it.
So you've got a script or a storyboard.
I don't have it planned before because there's no way you could do that.
So you don't storyboard it?
No. I've never done that. That's a laborious process, which actually for us would take too long. What I tend to do is I'm creating it in my head. I'm making a story. I'm seeing pictures as to how it goes together.
Yeah. And
that's how I direct. I make it work that way. And I like the actors to have their characters well established in their heads before we shoot.
Right.
So that they can come in and do it. I don't like them to tell them to do everything. I do tell them certain things.
Yeah.
But I'd rather that they are the person who's playing the role. And so a lot of the effort in the pre-production is in indoctrinating those actors into being in those roles. What I found with the most professional actors is they do that anyway. They turn up and they're already that person.
Yeah, they bring it.
They're like that, and it's an amazing skill they've got. And it's how they interpret that character that matters so much. It's the story that's really important, but also then it's your casting and how the characters are interpreted. That's very important too.
And on that note, how did you cast them? How did you get the two main leads in? To interrupt it, but how did you?
We used to do casting sessions. With Temporal, we did casting as well. We had two big casting sessions, one at a hotel, one at a college. But what we've done with our current production, Transition, is we've got a casting agent, and she's found us the actors.
Well, so this is the first time you had to deal with that. So rather than honing it down, she's done the work for you.
She's done it for us. She's very good at that. But what that has done is save us time. So we're able to concentrate more on the rest of it. I found, and the other thing about having people who are known is that they have a track record, and that's safer. If she knows them, it's like a reference, really.
Yeah.
But we've done all right. I mean, when we did the casting sessions before, a lot of that in Temporal was because we were casting people from college, and they were just starting out in their careers, not in acting necessarily, but they'd done media at school. They wanted to go on and act in something, so we gave them that opportunity. But they wouldn't have a casting agent, or wouldn't be known by one. So that's how we drew from that sort of body of people. But the other thing is, this is the fifth film now with Transition, so we've already met a lot of people, and so we've got like a back catalogue of people who want to act. So there is that sort of resource to draw on. So we nearly went to a casting session, but we didn't have to.
Right.
And I was glad we didn't have to, because it was the time factor. One thing is, Rachel is doing a big Bronte film shortly. That's due to be completed in April. We need to get her scenes completed, which we're scheduled to do this month. If we had casting sessions, that would have delayed the onset by a week or two, maybe. And so when we're on the sort of time frame we're on, that matters. So I was quite glad to bypass that.
And what's the projected run time for the new film? Not Temporal, but the one you're doing now.
Well, it'll be 90 minutes.
It'll be a 90 minutes.
The reason for that is it fits broadcasting needs. So we're trying to make it as friendly as we can to broadcasters. We're hoping that then makes it a little bit easier to get it out and get it to a larger audience.
Yeah.
So we're conscious of that. That's why we've got a time fixed on it.
Fantastic.
And being a drama, it sort of fits 90 minutes.
And the whole process, the filmmaking process, another thing that comes up time and again with all the filmmakers I speak to, really, well, two things actually that seem to stick is, and I guess what I'm asking is if you agree with this, editing, having someone independent from the production helps, because I think, do you do your own editing?
I do edit, but I get people to help by doing proofing on the editing.
Right.
Because I think it's so important. You can have sort of a proofwriter's error, especially if I've written something and then I direct it and I edit it. I could be missing some basic concept that's gone right through the process, and I don't want to be picking that up when it goes to the test audience. I want to be picking it up long before that, so it can be easily modified. So I get the edits checked and I get feedback on them.
And what about? And the other thing is the sound design. So many times I've heard a lot of directors say the thing they overlook is, or filmmakers, and by the time they get to the end of the film, like, oh God, we should have done it, and is the not spending enough time on the sound design, whether they mean within the making films or having a sound design or a sound design, sound recordist there.
We're really conscious of the need for clear sound.
Yeah.
Have been from the outset, because it's so easily overlooked. The thing is that an audience won't tolerate bad sound at all.
No.
So you're going to lose people. It's frustrating not to hear consonants, for instance. So one thing I'm constantly aware of when we're shooting is what the sound is up to. And I observe for where microphones are and whether there's a clear line of sight for consonants and that sort of thing. But it's something I'm mindful of. Because at the end of the day, I don't want to hear sound that's bad.
Yeah.
We do use ADRing as well.
Yeah.
We know when we can't win in terms of, say, being outside with bad sound. But most of the time we get it right, and we've found that helps a great deal. So ADRing doesn't quite work as well as live sound does.
Yeah, the real thing.
I've always thought there's a certain quality loss when you get someone to ADR.
Yeah.
There's a certain mood, feel to it. They're not psyched up the same.
Yeah.
They try and psych them up, but they're consciously trying to match their words to a timeline, to a screen, to the oscilloscope.
Oh, so rather than being in the rooms?
Yeah, that detracts.
They're there, aren't they?
They can't do it as spontaneously as they could if they were just acting. They don't come off script. They're fixed to what they've said. So that's their script, and so in a way it detracts, but ever so slightly. People haven't noticed it, but I notice it because I can hear both versions. So I like to get it right first time. So we strive to try and get the sound right, but of course that's not always going to be practical. If you've got aeroplanes and trains and motorbikes and all that stuff, you've got a fairly short sound sequence. It's easier just to do the filming and then do the sound later.
Thanks, Rob. Brilliant.
No problem.
Thank you very much for that. Really kind.